Good evening on this wonderful Tuesday evening, December 11th, 2012. Thanks for joining us in beautiful Cincinnati. We are Joe Hoagland and Brendan Kelly on JB Radio. Today was a fascinating day in politics. We had right to work legislation passed in Michigan. Governor Snyder has signed off on that bill, so that will be coming in shortly. Apparently, Speaker Boehner has sent another proposal to Obama on the fiscal cliff negotiations. So we'll see where that takes us. There's actually a move to ban concealed carry weapons in Illinois, and that was actually shot down in their state legislature. We want to look at Cory Booker's rise in the Democrat Party. We're going to discuss if he's a viable candidate to challenge Chris Christie next year in New Jersey. And obviously, Jim DeMint resigning was a big deal in Republican circles. And so that's significant. We're going to look at some of the people that Nikki Haley's looking at. She's narrowing her list down to 5. We'll see where that takes us. And we want to talk about the movement to move the Republican Party to the center. There's Jeb Bush has been pushing that. So we want to discuss his viability in the Republican Party.
All right, so to get to, so Joe, why don't we just get right into it? This right to work legislation in Michigan is the 24th state to implement this legislation. What does that show us in terms of like the impact on labor unions and their future, and where they are in terms of the United States economic state and how all of this works?
I think when unions started out, they were necessary. Like there was a lot of evil where those unions started in the 1920s and 30s, and I mean they were a good thing. I think they're an inherently good thing, but I think what people are starting to realize is big unions have overstepped their bounds, and they're all about the power. They're not about the people they're representing. I think that's what we're seeing with these more states passing this right to work legislation, even in states like Michigan, which is a big unionized state, kind of like Ohio in that sense. So
yeah, what is that saying about, because the unions are supposed to be for the people, but more and more people are not wanting to be a part of the union. So obviously there's being a disconnect with what the union stands for, I guess, on the surface, and what is really happening inside. Because I know people who work, for example, at Kroger, and they make minimum wage, and they also have to pay union fees, but they don't. That's just part of the job. And what is that union doing, I guess, to help them out when they're making already minimum wage and they're having to pay these union fees? I think a lot of people would just say, I don't want to pay the union fees. I will work as hard as I can to move up, and I believe that my higher ups will see that and will reward me for that. I guess why is there such a disconnect with people not wanting to be in the unions, even though the unions are supposed to be for the people?
Yeah, I think it's just the situation where like non-unionized businesses aren't treating their employees bad enough that you need the union. Like take someone in my family works for FedEx, and they're not unionized. UPS is unionized. There's not a difference between their salaries, their benefits and stuff. They're both treated well. That's because it's just to the point where I don't think you could get away with not treating your employees to the standard that we hold in the United States. And I don't think it has anything. I think unions had a big part playing in that, getting it to where it is, but I think they've just run their course.
Yeah, it seems like a lot of those things that protect the employee are already in place, so the union isn't serving much of a purpose other than seems to be furthering whatever they want to accomplish, not necessarily in terms of protecting the employees, but just furthering whatever like you said, the power struggle or power.
Kind of the us versus them mentality.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think we can switch gears at this point. I mean, what do you think, I guess, about the labor unions? If this continues, what do we see in terms of the United States economy? Do you think it's going to improve with the diminishing of roles of the union, or do you think it's going to is it going to be a good thing or a bad thing for the overall economy of states and overall the whole country?
I think like we'll see if we see, especially in the terms of public unions. I think we'll see their diminishing value. I think that will help the economy. That's a, I mean, that's a really touchy subject to a lot of people because their unions get them really good benefits, especially on the public side of
Yeah.
things, teacher unions and firefighter unions, stuff like that.
Hmm.
But I do think that with such as Ohio trying to ban collective bargaining, which was actually repealed. I think measures like that, if we keep seeing them progress, I think that will help the economy as a whole. Um, so
Yeah, they saw. I want to bring this up. It's on Fox News. There was an article that talked about this. It was done by Mike Tobin of Fox News, and he talked about in Detroit there was a number of districts that actually closed because 750 staff members had called out because of the decision that was made by Snyder. And I guess let's think about this because teacher unions they do serve a purpose for teachers, and we love teachers, so we want them to be able to get paid what they deserve. But what happens when these union concerns go over and above the concerns for uh, the kids? Because it could happen that these teachers decide not to go back to work for a while, and what's going to happen with the kids in the school system? I mean, we're getting close to the end of a lot of people's quarters and semesters. What's going to happen? I mean, it just kind of shows that there's not a whole lot of emphasis being put on the kids. It's all about what seems to be politics in terms of this.
yeah, I definitely think that's a problem. Like when Chicago, their education union, they had a strike earlier this year. I mean, it's like who's that's just hurting the kids. Like you're holding out for a little 2% raise or something, and that's really worth. You're I think you should go into teaching to help kids, not and these teacher unions make it all about them. Uh, I don't see teacher unions fighting for the students very often. It's all about them. So I don't know. It's kind of a
Well, it's definitely a touchy issue.
right.
But one thing, it's not as if this legislation is putting away unions. It's just giving people a choice. So why is that such a big deal for people who want to be in a union? And that's fine. Maybe that means less power for the unions, but it still does mean that they have a place. Uh, as far as if people still want to be in it, then
Right.
they can. It's just the choice to not be a part of it. So what is that really even saying? Um, what's the bigger deal that we're not seeing on the surface?
Right. Uh, I think, well, there is a video on Steven Crowder getting attacked at the Michigan protests, and he's like, "So what is your guys' problem with right to work?" And the one guy goes like a bunch of like F this, F that. It's because we work so hard as a union, and they're just gonna steal all the benefits that we get and not pay anything. And I guess that's what it boils down to for them. But
So they're saying that they're going to get the same benefits but not have to pay anything to the unions.
Right.
Oh, well, then where's the purpose of the union then? Exactly. We good on that?
Yep.
All right, fiscal cliff. This is gonna take a while. Um, so Boehner proposed another deal to the White House. We don't have a whole lot of detail on it as far as what's involved and what they're willing to come. What do you see in this? I mean, with the way that this is played out, do you see any deal getting done before the end of the year?
Oh man, I sure hope so. Like I think it's just I think Boehner really wants it. I don't know about. I just the fiscal cliff happening would be so bad for the middle class, it also would be bad for the Republicans, I think, in a sense that they get blamed for it.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's why Obama's just kind of sat on the sidelines on this. Like, I'm not going to budge on this stuff, which I think is bad leadership, but that's a whole different issue. I guess, like, the thing is with this new deal, I guess it raises revenues or whatever. They're not being real specific about it. I don't have a problem with them raising taxes on people. Of Obama's proposal, raising taxes on people making $300,000 or more, that's all right with me. I think at some point we can't keep these same tax rates forever, and if that's what we got to compromise on, I think we got to compromise at some point. I guess. What do you think about that?
Well, it's more complicated than just a raising of taxes because see raising taxes on the I guess the upper class is not going to solve our deficit issues. It's going to play a very small part in it, but it seems to be that is the overarching focus on it, and that's just part of it. See, the Republicans seem to want to close out loopholes and generate revenue in that way, but Obama seems to not want to do anything unless it involves raising taxes, which we can argue all day whether raising a tax rate or not is going to make much of a difference, because if we do simple math, it's not going to help the cause more than a week. There was some numbers that was done based on the amount of money that they will make in terms of revenue by raising this tax. It will be able to fund the government for about a week, about 8 days, I think it was. So what is the real issue that we're facing, I think, is our debt, the level of our debt and our spending. Because where's our money going to, and why is it going to that? We need to have a real conversation about that. It's not just so much, we need more revenue, let's go out and ask the people for more money. Yeah, maybe the rich can pay more. That's fine. But you know what? After we start taking more of their money, they start offering less jobs, because a lot of times the wealthy are the people who are the employers, and if they're making less money, they're not going to be able to employ as many people. It's more complicated than just class warfare and then we don't like them. It's not so much that. It's a lot more complicated than just that.
Right. Like I totally am following that. I just think that since we have this fiscal cliff hanging over us, I think that's the area we need to compromise on. Because if we don't, then Obama's Twitter page pushes all the time, like, what does your 2000 mean to you? Because if this fiscal cliff is reached, the majority of middle-class families will be paying $2,000 more in taxes a year. That's a lot of money for a lot of families. And it's something that I feel like with Obama pushing that so much, he should be more willing to compromise than what he is. But I also think we need to reach a compromise at all costs. So I think that falls on the Republicans to follow Boehner's leadership and get that done.
Yeah, see, some of the main conservative voices on radio are saying, some of them are saying, we need to compromise. Some of them are saying, no, we need to stick to what conservative values are and not budge. So let's just play this out. If they do decide to we're not going to budge on this, the tax rates need to continue. The rich don't need to be paying more. What is going to happen? Because aren't the effects of that going to be worse than just saying, okay, we can raise these tax rates, and then in 2016 we're confident that we can get the White House and change these things? What's the benefit to deficit ratio? It's kind of hard to measure, but what are we willing to do, and what is it going to cost if we don't do a compromise?
Right. Yeah. Definitely. I think there'd be a lot of political cost with it on top of a lot of stuff. I do think a lot of people who have a lot of these people on the radio, like you're saying, that's not going to affect them. Like holding firm and going to the fiscal cliff wouldn't affect them, because the I mean, that tax rate is negligible to them. So, I mean, they're pretty well off. Like, I think we got to listen to the voices of the actual, which I think there's a disconnect between conservative radio sometimes. And, I mean, yeah, it's great. The principle of holding firm and not compromising, I think, is a little different than the reality of what would happen.
Yeah, I agree. It seems that this is off of that story. This is actually off of NBC News. Uh, it said that the GOP called for $800 billion in new revenue. Their last proposal through closing tax loopholes and deductions. That's more than half of what Obama's calling for in new revenue. And then it was an additional $600 billion in savings through cuts to entitlements. So you're $1.4 trillion right there, and which is the revenue that Obama wanted if we count savings as revenue. So let's think about that though, because he's getting what he wants. He's just not getting it how he wants it.
Right.
All right. So in Illinois, there was a proposal to ban concealed carry, and it was shot down. Illinois being a very, very liberal state. What is that saying? I mean, that's very interesting to me. I don't really know what to think about it. But I mean, we still have the Second Amendment, so
Right.
What do we do with that?
Yeah. There's just so many. Like, every state's so different on the gun laws and stuff, and this whole narrative being pushed in the media that we need to control guns and semi-automatic weapons should be illegal and stuff like that. Like, I don't think people understand what a semi-automatic weapon is, for the first thing. Like, that's just your typical handguns, a semi-automatic pistol. I mean, come on. But the push for the ban of that, like, that's just, I saw, Piers Morgan, CNN commentator, he tweeted that it wasn't the founding fathers' intent regarding today's weapons when they wrote Second Amendment.
They had muskets.
Yeah,
or whatever.
like that's, come on, that's such a bad argument. Okay, so I'm supposed to arm myself with a musket when someone's coming after me with AK-47 or something? I mean, the amendment's gotta grow with, and I don't know. Someone tweeted back at him like, "Where's the word muskets in the Constitution?" Like, that's not in the amendment. So
yeah, I can't remember who that was, but it was pretty funny because she brought up something and they had a back and forth, and it was just kind of entertaining. But it does show you kind of how people think that in the Constitution they're referring to their culture at that time, and just because our culture is different, that means that this Constitution that we have shouldn't be followed or should be interpreted totally different, things like that. So it's very interesting to see how people are these things.
The thing with Illinois, though, specifically, I think that's a great victory for gun rights and just rights in general. I think it's funny that liberals always push personal liberty and stuff, but I mean, in principle, they aren't really for it at all. But a lot of conservatives are, a lot of Republicans want to ban like all kinds of personal liberties. So I think like that's something that personal liberty is something that I think the general public is saying, hey, I want my personal liberty. And I think the legislator in Illinois was their voice on that, I guess.
Yeah, I'm looking up some numbers. I wanted to find out what the rate of crime is amongst people who are actually registered gun owners compared to people who commit crimes with unregistered guns. I can't. Need a minute here. Because here's the thing, with gun rights, I get what they're saying, I guess. I mean, I don't agree with it, but their whole motive on pushing this is to lower crime, or maybe, I mean, I don't know. But if that was their motive, to lower crime by controlling guns and not having concealed carry licenses, things like that, it doesn't change the fact that criminals will get guns if they want to, and these guns will still be on the streets. They just may not be legal at this time.
Right.
So what good will it do to ban people's right to bear arms? I mean, it's not going to solve anything. It may make things worse.
Right. Like, I mean, I was saying a lot of times it comes out after a murder, like a highly publicized murder, like, oh, we need to ban guns. But I mean, you don't think that murderer was gonna murder without a gun? Like,
Yeah.
what, murders didn't exist before guns? Really? I mean, come on.
Yeah. Should we ban swords? Should we ban
Knives.
knives, forks,
I mean,
our
our
fists?
fists, yeah.
Should we cut off everybody's arms,
Yeah.
legs? These things, people don't understand or they don't seem to put in the human factor of this. They're gonna, if they really want to kill someone, they'll kill them.
Oh yeah.
This is a story off of ljworld.com. In Wichita, Kansas, it says few Kansas people who hold concealed carry gun permits have been charged with a firearm-related crime. 51,078 permits issued in Kansas since the law took effect in 2007. Just 44 permit holders were charged with a crime committed while using a firearm. That's a 0.09% rate of people who are registered gun owners,
Right.
and that's actually concealed carry gun owners.
Right. Like, I think you find, like, well, especially with concealed carry, I think if you go get a concealed carry license, I mean, you're more likely to be, I mean, I don't have stats to back this up, but I mean, I would think that you'd be more responsible, like, you know, you're a hunter or you know, police officer, ex-military, something like that, or you just have a history with guns and you actually know how to use them and stuff. I think, I mean, okay, if we ban guns, then we ban concealed carry licenses and licensing for guns. So all that stuff goes away. So when you get a gun, there's no license behind it. You don't have to register it. It's just illegal to have, but why is it going to stop people from having them? I mean, they're everywhere. We're not going to get rid of them.
Yeah. There's another story I found, WBUR.org. Talks about the case of Richard Becker, and I don't know anything about this. But other than what it's saying, the guy had licenses for about 18 guns, but the permits expired. But then he had 2 warrants out for his arrest for missing jury duty. And allegedly he had 36 firearms, including an Uzi, an AK-47, and a Colt assault weapon popularly used by the U.S. military. But the point of that is that people will get weapons whether they have a permit or not.
Right.
Whether they choose to use it in some lethal force for a violent crime, that's them. What we could do, I guess, if the left wants to totally ban guns, is to find every single gun in the world, destroy it, and then put out all the businesses that manufacture weapons, and not even have the military own weapons, because even if they do, civilians will get a hold of it. So if that's what we're going to do, why don't we just go all the way there?
Right.
That took an interesting turn. All right, Cory Booker, you wanted to talk about him, so
Yeah. Fascinating. I mean, he's basically Cory Booker, the mayor of Newark, basically unknown. Then all of a sudden he comes on the scene when he kind of criticized some of Obamacare. Came out and said he wasn't criticizing it and stuff like that, but he was a big conservative star for a while because they like to use his what he said against Obamacare. But lately he came back in the news because he went on a week of just living off of food stamps. So he could like empathize with those people or whatever, and that's cool. I mean, I get it. But he's being vetted as a potential challenger to Chris Christie next year. I don't think he really has a chance. I mean, Christie's leading most people by over 15 in the polls. They're looking at right now. I mean, Christie's pretty popular and he's pretty moderate. So I don't think Booker has a chance, but I am fascinated by his rise. He seems like a potential potential Democrat star in the future.
yeah.
I guess he's also looking at the Senate seat that will be open because in New Jersey, I forget the guy's name, but he's 90 years old right now.
The Mintz?
No, in New Jersey.
Oh, okay.
it'll be open in 2014, I think,
Gotcha.
when he's 91. So they don't think he'll run for re-election.
Yeah, it's a long life and be in politics. Yeah. Whew. Um, yeah, I mean, I don't know what to say.
I guess well, um, so Cory Booker's a younger
Mhm.
guy. They don't nobody really ever talks about the Democrat Party, I think, getting younger. They always, uh, I guess, like Newt Gingrich came out and said like if Hillary Clinton runs, the Republicans don't have a chance next time. Like I don't think that's true.
No.
I think Newt Gingrich likes to get in the news. But like it's interesting to look at some of the younger stars in the Democratic Party. There's Cory Booker. There's the mayor of San Antonio, I think. There's Yeah, I guess just the double standard there. I mean, the Democrat Party's pretty old too, I guess, in the sense that
Talking about
both.
Julian Castro.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Julian Castro. He made a good. I liked his speech at the Democrat National Convention. I mean, he's got a twin brother too who's in politics, I think. And I guess the Republican Party's got to get on the track where we have young stars too, I guess, and we do. We just need to get the older segment of the Republican Party on track with him, and like with Marco Rubio and Bobby Jindal and Nikki Haley, people like that.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Definitely. So Jim DeMint decided to step down from his Senate spot, um, and he's taking over the Heritage Foundation. He
Right.
says he feels like he can make more of an impact in terms of conservatism through the Heritage Foundation than he can as a senator um, in the U.S. government. So, what do you take from that? Do you agree with him that he can have more of an impact through the Heritage Foundation, or do you think he's making, I guess, maybe he's having different motivations for this, and this is how he's justifying it? I mean, it could be a
Right.
number of things. We don't really know. But what do you think about that?
Yeah. I think that I don't think he'll be able to make. Uh, I don't think he'll be more influential running the Heritage Foundation, but I mean that's just my personal opinion. I think we need leaders like Jim DeMint in the Senate who stand for conservative principles, kind of lean towards the Tea Party.
Yeah.
I mean, you can debate the whole Tea Party thing, but I think we need that side of the Republican Party still in Senate. And for right now, DeMint resigning, it's going to be good because Nikki Haley's going to pick a conservative to replace him. But what's that going to look like down the line? I don't think DeMint was pretty solid in South Carolina. He's pretty loved there. So I don't.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I think he can do some good things in the Heritage Foundation. But I also think like maybe he was experiencing some frustration and how the Republican Party is moving to the middle in the Senate.
Yeah.
So that could be a part of it. I mean, I'm sure the salary is nice in the Heritage Foundation too. So.
Oh, I bet. How about that? So talk about some of his potential replacements, and who do you think is
Right.
kind of the favorite for that?
Nikki Haley has narrowed it down to 5 people. Representative Tim Scott, Representative Trey Gowdy, the former Attorney General of South Carolina, Henry McMaster. Really interesting, Jenny Sanford, Mark Sanford's ex-wife. That's really interesting to me. And Catherine Templeton, who's kind of obscure, but she's on the South Carolina Department of Health and Environmental Control. So I think what I'm hearing is the front runners are Tim Scott and Jenny Sanford. I like them both. I mean, it would be nice to get some. I mean, I hope she doesn't pick a woman because she's a woman, but I mean, I think Sanford and Templeton are qualified to be senators. Sanford probably more than Templeton. I do think that. Well, my favorite out of these is Tim Scott. I like Tim Scott a lot. He probably might lean more to the right than Jim DeMint does. So.
Yeah, it'd be kind of an improvement in a sense on that. But yeah, I mean that's good. They have good viable candidates, and like you said, if Jenny Sanford is is the person for the job. That's awesome. Plus, it just gives um, another leadership role in the Republican Party for a woman that plays against what the left is trying to portray as the party that is
Right.
all against women's rights. And this kind of I'm going to take a left turn here because I want to talk a little bit about the, and we don't have to talk about this real long, but
Right.
the left's support of Islam and Sharia law and just their relationship with these people, especially in Egypt and um, places like that. The interesting thing to me is that the Democratic Party is all about women's rights, and that's great. Um, but then you see them supporting things like this, countries who are going to implement Sharia law, and if anybody knows anything about Sharia law, one thing to highlight that is oppression of women to
Right.
the fullest.
Definitely.
So what does that say? Is that a double standard? Is that just something that they're putting off? Why is it that we can say that we're for women's rights, but then support um, a way of thinking that oppresses women um, to the most extreme and to the most extreme I believe on this earth.
Right.
Why support them? What's the motive behind that?
Yeah, I have no idea. I think it's my guess. It would be like, Islam is this vogue. We don't really know anything about it, and so
To
we
attractive
want
in a
to
sense, is that?
like downplay Christianity. We want to push it down and say, they've oppressed women, and we're trying to grow out of that. And then since they just know nothing about Islam, they're gonna like say, they're gonna support those people just because it's like their whole double standard on tolerance. Like we're only tolerant we're tolerant of everybody but Christians in
Yeah.
this country. It seems like, and I mean, if Islamists had settled in the United States and we're at this point, it would probably be the other way around. Like if Christianity was from the Middle East,
Yeah.
it'd be like, oh, we love this Christianity stuff, but we don't. Islam, they oppress women and stuff. So I think it's just their whole crusade against Christianity.
Yeah, it's like we're tolerant until you disagree with us.
Right.
Last but not least, let's talk about Jeb Bush and his attempts to guide the Republican Party towards the middle, and just the bigger sign this has, and I think it's historically played out this way that as the Democratic Party goes more left, gets more liberal, the Republican Party will start becoming more moderate, more moderate, more moderate, and then before you know it, I mean we've got the far left, and then we got to the middle to the left.
Right.
And so what do we think about that, and what does that even say for the future of American politics, and should there be a change in terms of I mean I'll even go as far to say is should there be a change within the Republican Party, or should there be something some sort of a like a Tea Party movement that moves becomes more than just a movement and becomes more of a major player in American politics.
Right. Yeah, I think the mainstream media is pushing Jeb Bush big time because they feel like he'd be an easy target. And I tend to agree with them on that.
Oh yeah.
Because
His last
just because he's
name.
got the Bush name, but Jeb Bush, he's got this cold, compassionate, conservative thing that George Bush had, kind of, immigration reform. I don't think there's anything wrong with that, but I don't think the Republican Party moving towards a compassionate conservative is going to help. It's going to help in the long term. It's just going to give. If there's no real difference between the Republican Party and the Democrat Party, then we're just going to go farther to the left. I don't think there's any going back to the right at this point. So, in that sense, I think Jeb Bush would be smart to stay out of 2016, I guess.
Yeah, that would be a very bad thing to have him as the Republican nominee.
I also don't think that we would nominate him. I hope
yeah,
not.
I don't think so either.
But
The name alone would probably scare most people away. Anything else? Let's close it out.
thanks for listening today. We appreciate it. We'll be back next week around this time. Uh, thanks for supporting.
God bless.